Hello students, this is Shailaja and today we'll be discussing with the stem modifications. In the last lecture, I have mainly discussed with the root and root modifications. We have mainly seen regarding the structure of the root, the types of the root, and also we have finished with the root modifications. So in the previous video, we have mainly seen what type of modifications and adaptations are seen for different type of plants. We have discussed many examples regarding this root modifications, which are mainly important for storage, for support, and even for climbing action, for defense, and for flotation. So different type of functions are mainly seen for these modified roots. So in the same way, even we have the stem. So after the root system, we are mainly discussing with the stem now. So we have different parts of the angiospermic plant. One, the root, stem, leaves, flowers, and even the buds, different structures which are associated with this angiospermic plant. Each and every part of this angiospermic plant, mainly they tend to modify, and each modification, it is very essential for the plant to survive in various habitats. They are mainly benefited by these modifications. So let us start with the stem modifications today. So first we will be seeing the structure. First we will be considering the structure of the stem here. Yes, we have discussed the structure of the stem. Once again we will be recalling the structure of the stem. Okay, so let us see. So this is a plant and we have finished with the root system, and this is the stem part. The stem part is green in color in general, and with the increase in the age of the plant, it will turn woody and also it will be brown in color. Then what does the stem, what is the role of the stem generally? We all know the stem mainly it will be carrying the leaves, buds, and different type of structures are mainly attached. So it is acting like a platform to all the accessory organs of the plant. Not only that, the stem, it is mainly acting as a way for the transport of different type of substances. It may be sugars, food material, nutrients, hormones, or even you have the photosynthate, the sugar which is produced in the leaves are also being transported to different organs, and mainly the water, the root will be mainly absorbing water and it is transported to the tip of the plant, mainly with the help of the stem. So stem, it is mainly acting like a platform for attachment, and also it is mainly paving way for different kind of substances to pass all over the plant body. And coming to the structures which are mainly associated with the stem here, if you see the stem, we all know that the stems are having the points where the leaves are mainly attached. So here mainly the stem will have the nodes and the internodes. I have told you before, the nodes are the regions where the leaves will arise. Okay, so wherever the leaves will arise, we call that point of attachment as a node, and the gap between two nodes is said to be the internode. So if you see here, these are nodes. I have marked the nodes here. So these are 1, 2, 3 nodes I am showing here. These nodes are present, and in between, the space which is left between the two nodes, or the interval between the two nodes, is said to be the internode. Okay, and these are the leaves. Wherever the leaf or branches are attached, we generally call it as a node. And along with these structures, we even have discussed the two important other structures which we have discussed in previous lectures, that is regarding the buds. So two type of buds are mainly seen attached to the stem, and those are the apical bud and the axillary bud. Apical bud is also known as terminal bud. So if you see the picture here, mainly we have one terminal bud. So in order to increase the length of the plant, mainly the terminal bud will play a role. The many hormones will be produced in this terminal bud, which will make a plant to grow in a vertical fashion. And we even have the axillary buds, and these axillary buds are present in the axils of the leaves, or the angle which is made between the stem and the leaf, it is known as axil. As these buds are placed in these axils, we call these buds as the axillary bud. So we have two type of buds, one is terminal bud and other is the axillary bud. Axillary buds are mainly meant for the production of lateral branches here, and the terminal bud, it will help in increasing the length of the plant. Generally we have many axillary buds, but terminal buds are situated at the top of the plant. Okay, so So whenever if you remove the terminal bud, the growth of the plant is mainly, the vertical growth of the plant is inhibited and the lateral growth of the plant will be increased, which is called as apical dominance. So the phenomenon of the lateral growth with the removal of the apical bud, it is known as apical dominance. Okay, so for now we are mainly discussing with the structures associated with the stem here. One are the nodes, and in the nodes we have the buds. The buds are again two types, terminal bud and also the axillary bud we have, and also we have the leaves and branches attached to the stem. So each and every part of these structures associated with the stem, they have the ability to modify. We even never imagined that the root has such a vast variety of modifications. In the same way, even the stem, the flowers, the inflorescence, each and every part of angiospermic plant have a great ability to modify and sustain in the environment. So vast diversity, the biological diversity is mainly seen in these plants. Okay, so in the same way as we have discussed with the roots, we even will be discussing with the stem. Later we'll do it with the leaves, flower and everything. So first today we'll be starting with the stem here. Okay, so now generally I have told you what are the functions of the stem and also the organs that are mainly attached to the stem. So even you have to keep it in mind that mainly we have leaves and buds which are mainly attached to the stem. Why? Because when we are discussing with the stem modifications, you have to identify whether it is a modified root or a stem, and this is mainly done on the basis of the structures which are present on them. If you know the structures which are associated with the stem, then it will be very easy to identify whether the modification is a root modification or a stem modification. You can say that mainly the shoot is aerial structure, so the modifications will be present aerially, but it is not true, children. Just like the root, the stem can even show modifications lying underground. So then there will be a confusion for you, and hence you have to understand that if there is some underground structure, if you want to distinguish it as if you want to distinguish between an underground stem and a root, you have to know the structures and organs associated with the stem, so that you can easily identify whether the underground part, the modified part, is a root or a stem. Okay, so that is a major importance here, and we'll be starting with the first important modification. Just like the root, the stem even have different type of functions. What are the functions that we have discussed now? The general functions of the stem. Then we will look into the special functions of the stem here. Okay, the first important function is storage and perenniation. So the first important function that we are discussing with the stem is the storage and perenniation. We all know that the roots will store food material, the starch, and they will be present inside the soil, and later they will be used during unfavorable conditions. So there are cases where the stem which is aerially present will produce some branches and it will reach the soil, it will penetrate the soil just like the root will do, and when it penetrates the soil, it will modify, it will store the food material, and it will be mainly used for the perenniation. So what is perenniation, that we will be discussing later. So first we will see what are the types of storage roots we have. Okay, so storage roots mainly they are nothing but the stem part which is aerially present will be reaching the soil, and it will be penetrating the soil, and later it will be storing the food material, mainly the starch. We all know the starch is stored in the amyloplasts. So amyloplasts are nothing but the modified parenchyma cells. So wherever you have the starch which is mainly stored in tubers, roots or stems, you have to understand that the amyloplasts are generally seen. Okay, so just like the mammals they have the adipose tissue to store the fat, in the same way there are certain cells, specialized cells to store the starch, and those cells are known as amyloplasts, and amyloplasts are nothing but the modified parenchyma cells, or simply you can say modified chloroplast cells. Okay, so In these storage routes, mainly the underground storage stems, sorry, not roots, the underground storage stems will be discussing today. There are 4 type of underground stems which will store the food material. What are the 4 type of underground stems we have? The first one, it is being a rhizome. Second is called as tuber. Third is the corm, and fourth is the bud. Okay, so these 4 structure will be learning today, and mainly these 4 structures, they will be storing their food material for different purposes. Definitely, if it is storing the food material, the plant will be utilizing it whenever there are less energy reserves. Okay, so plant will be benefited with its the storage of the food material will be mainly benefited during unfavorable conditions, or you can say if there is less sunlight, water, whatever, there are scarcity of sources. Whenever it is present, the plant will be utilizing its own food material. That is one important purpose of the storage. And second important thing, mainly for underground stems, these are acting like a perinating structures. What are perinating structure? All these modified stems which are becoming fleshy and present inside the soil, they will be perinating inside the soil during unfavorable conditions, and they are saved like a seed. So they are saved like seed, and they are again used in the successive generations to give up the new offsprings or new plants. Okay, so mainly these structures are also meant for reproduction as well as perenniation. Perenniation means saving themselves inside the soil during unfavorable condition, and with the onset of the favorable condition, again they will give rise to the new offsprings, which is known as perenniation. Just like the seeds do. Seeds, what will the seeds will be doing, children? Seeds are mainly saved inside the soil for some time. They will be in dormancy, and later with the onset of the favorable condition, they will germinate. So in the same way, these structures, even as they are storing their food material, so whenever there is a unfavorable condition, they will be saved inside the soil, and they will be survived with their food material which they have stored before, and they will be surviving. Whenever there is a favorable condition, they will germinate, they will sprout, they will germinate, and they will give rise to the new plants. Okay, so this is one of the best way the plant has devised to maintain, or you can say, for its propagation. Okay, so these are the 4 important structures which are mainly important for storage as well as perenniation. So perenniation is also the major important method through which they can propagate. So simply like asexual or vegetative propagation, we all know what is vegetative propagation. First we will be discussing here. So generally the plants will be produced from the seeds, we all know, and that is through sexual reproduction. With the pollination, the flowers will be pollinated, and later they will be producing the male gamete, female gamete. They will fuse and they will form the zygote, embryo, and later they will be forming the seed. So that is how the plants will be mainly regenerated. But normally the plants even show another type of reproduction. What is another type of reproduction, children? Just like the lower animals, the plants even show the asexual reproduction, and in this case it is also called as vegetative propagation. So in plants we use another term for asexual reproduction, and that is the vegetative propagation. Both are same. Asexual reproduction or vegetative propagation, both are same, but mainly for plants we use the name vegetative propagation. So what will happen in vegetative propagation? Here there is no requirement of the seed. Seed is not required. Sexual reproduction is not essentially be present here. So we have asexual mode of reproduction or vegetative propagations in the plant body. So how these plants are mainly produced asexually, that we will see. Then what is a major advantage of this vegetative propagation? If a parent plant will have the desirable qualities. So let us say if a plant is economically important and we require certain traits or characters in that particular species. If a plant has specific characteristic features which are completely desired, and if you want to maintain these characters through generations, for many generations, Can you be doing this with a sexual reproduction, children? No, it is it is impossible, because sexual reproduction will always create some variation. Not only that, in nature, even if the sexual reproduction, if the pollination is taking place continuously, what will happen? It will lead to variation. So whenever there is variation, there will be change in the traits. We require certain important traits and we want it to be unaltered for generation. Then how this unalteration can be maintained? It can be maintained by vegetative propagation. So if you take a plant and it is produced by asexual means or through vegetative propagation, the same parental characters are retained in the offsprings. If a mother is having a specific character, that can be directly passed to their offsprings if it is produced directly from the same mother plant. But if the mother plant is again participating in the pollination, what will happen? The male, the paternal characters will be mixed here. The male and the female plant characters will be mixed, and in turn they will be giving some new characters or new traits which is undesired to us. So here, mainly in order to maintain this constancy, or you can say simply the desired characters or qualities, the plants are mainly propagating vegetatively. Okay, so this is important for the plant and as well as humans. Even we are mainly dependent on the plant. So we have many of plants which are economically important to us, and we are always looking into the characters of this plant, the traits of the plant which are required to us. If let us say the tea plant, mainly what we require from the tea plant, we require the flavor and also the color. So these two traits has to be, we want these two traits has to be saved for all the offsprings for numerous generations. Then what we will do, if you allow these plants for sexual reproduction, definitely the characters will be changed. So in order to save these traits or qualities, what you will do, you will be propagating these plants vegetatively by cuttings, or you can say anything, the vegetative propagation by plant tissue culture or any different method which mainly save these characters, we can follow. But if you are allowing them to show the sexual reproduction, definitely it will result in the variation. So this is how mainly the humans are benefited. But what about the plant? Why the plant requires this vegetative propagation? One, it is the fastest mode of propagation. So mainly the sexual reproduction is time taking, and even it has to be dependent, as they are static population. We all know the plants are mainly static. They even has to wait for the pollen to come, later the reproduction. So it is a very time taking process. So in order to produce many offsprings in short time, mainly the plant will rely upon the vegetative propagation. This is the importance of the plant to show mainly this vegetative propagation. And not only that, children, some of the characters which are mainly present in the parents that are continuously carried to the offsprings, and that in that way also the plants will be benefited. Okay, so that is the most important advantage of the plant to show this asexual mode of reproduction. So why I am discussing mainly with this asexual mode of reproduction or vegetative propagation? Because mainly these storage stems which we are discussing now are all mainly meant for the asexual reproduction. So everything, the rhizome, tuber, corm and bulb, all of them, along with storing their food material, mainly they are acting for marination and also for vegetative propagation. This is the most important thing you have to keep in mind. So the first important modification, the stem modification. So all the four important structures which I am discussing now are mainly meant for: one, for storage; two, for perenniation, they can be saved inside the soil whenever it requires, whenever there is onset of favorable condition they will sprout; and the third thing, they are mainly meant for vegetative propagation or asexual reproduction. How it is meant for asexual reproduction? Let us say a piece of ginger. If you take a piece of ginger and you place it in soil, what will happen, children? After some time it will germinate and give rise to new plant. There is no requirement of seed. If you take a potato, at least a peel of potato tomato may work to produce a new offspring or a plant. And even with the onion, if you take an onion, you place it inside the soil, you get numerous bulblets, or you can say bulbils of the onion. So how this is happening without the seed? We all know the plant will be coming, the plant will be mainly rising from a seed. But there's some alternative methods the plant will show. So these are one of the methods where you can see the vegetative propagation. So these are natural, even the artificially we can be inducing this vegetative propagation in plants, but these are the natural methods of vegetative propagation in the plants. So now you can easily understand the terms here. Mainly now you are very clear with why this stem modification, the first important stem modification we are discussing here. They are mainly meant for three important functions. One, it is meant for the storage. Second, it is mainly acting like a perinating structure for perination. And third, it is mainly showing it is mainly acting like a mode of asexual reproduction or vegetative reproduction. Okay, so all these three are the main purposes of the underground stem modification in these four: rhizome, tuber, bulb, and corm. Even we have another important term which is called as dormancy. What is dormancy, children? Dormancy means it's an inactive state. Though there is an favorable condition or unfavorable conditions, some of the plants, they will show dormancy. We all know about seed dormancy. Even certain plants are also showing dormancy. Then what is dormancy? Is perination and dormancy are the same? Yes, we have some similarity between perination and dormancy, but they are not exactly the same. Perination means mainly it is shown perination means mainly it is the structures of the plants which are mainly perinating inside the soil to save their lives for successive generation or for the next year, for production of the offsprings for the next year. Mainly these structures are saved. But dormancy is associated with the plant or the seed. What is the dormancy of the plant? Generally in certain countries, mainly if you see certain plants, they will shed off all the leaves in the winter, and again they will be producing the new leaves with the onset of the spring. In the same way, some of the seeds, if you see, even there are some favorable conditions outside, they will not be germinating immediately. They will take some rest and they will become passive, dormant. They will take some rest and later they will be sprouted or germinated, and this is known as dormancy. Even in animals, if you see, there are certain animals which become passive in the winter season. They will store a lot of you can see the fat inside the fat cells, and they will be hibernated. There we call it as hibernation, and here we call it as the dormancy. Okay, so in plants we generally call it as dormancy, but for animals even we can say it as dormant state, or you can call them as hibernation. Some of the animals, they take water but they will be avoiding the food. So different types of hibernations we have, and some of the animals are mainly be passive in the summer season, that is called aestivation, and some animals mainly they will be dormant in the winter season, and that is known as hibernation. So different cases we have with the animals. In the same way, even the plants will be showing the dormancy. Some of the plants, they will become passive or dormant because of the weather condition, mainly for winter, due to as the plants are very soft in nature, they cannot tolerate these freezing temperatures or cold temperatures. In order to avoid the situation, mainly they will become dormant, and with the onset of the summer or spring, you can say, the leaves are, the physiological process will be active, and also the plant will be producing all the structures like flowers, leaves and all. Okay, so this is the major difference between the dormancy and perination. Dormancy, it is mainly associated with the seed and also the plant, but perination is mainly associated with the underground structures of certain plants, which are mainly saved for some drought condition or unfavorable condition, and in the successive, or you can see in the next year, mainly they will be germinating. So with the onset of the summer, again they will be germinating. So these are the perinating structures. Okay, so this is regarding perination, dormancy, and also we have discussed with the different terms like hibernation, aestivation. So all these are very important, children. So mainly if you see here, the perination The perinating structures are some of the modified structures of the plant which are saved for drought condition, or you can see the winter, and later in the next you can see in the successive year or the coming year, the plants will again regerminate to form the new plants or offsprings. Okay, so this is about the perination. Now let us see the 4 types of underground stem. The first being rhizome. Rhizome is a kind of underground storage stem. It will be mainly growing parallel to the soil or horizontally inside the soil. Okay, so this is how mainly you can recognize the rhizome. Rhizome, it will be having some irregular shape. They are growing parallel or horizontal in the horizontal inside the soil. So if you see the structure of rhizome, how is this rhizome? There will be some underground stem which will be produced, and the stem, it will reach the soil, and once it reaches the soil, it will save all the starch inside it and it will become fleshy. And if you see here, even the underground roots will store food material. And how you will distinguish? That is what I have asked you before. So if you see here, what type of structures are mainly seen in this underground rhizome? Here, the underground rhizome, it is brown in color. And here, if you see the structures, we have some lines which are present on them, and here the lines represent the nodes and the gaps represent the internodes. So just like the stem where I have told you we have nodes and internodes, even we have the nodes here, and these gaps are said to be the internodes. And these thick structures represents the scaly leaves. Here the leaves are generally not present inside the soil. Why? Because the leaves are very much reduced and they will be leaving an impression of desiccated, or you can say very thin leaves or scaly leaves. These are generally called as scaly leaves. Okay, so these underground stems are mainly distinguished with the help of nodes, internodes, and also the scaly leaves. Okay, so 3 structures I have discussed here. One, they have nodes, they have internodes, and even they have the scaly leaves. Okay, so these are the dry scaly leaves which are associated with the underground stem. Then what extra you can see? We even have discussed with the buds. So you have to see the buds even. Yes, they definitely have the buds, children. So here and there you can see the bud formation. The buds are present on the nodes region. We all know nodes will be having the buds. So at the nodal region we have some buds. Okay, so here and there you can see the buds are scattered, and these buds are mainly representing the area from where the sprouting will be taking place. So axillary buds, terminal buds can also be seen. Sometimes the terminal bud is suppressed, and in some cases the terminal bud is active. Okay, so here at the tips you can see the terminal buds, and in between you have the axillary buds. So all the structures associated with the stem can also be seen here. What are the structures I have told you? The node, internode, the scaly leaves. Leaves are modified into scaly leaves. Why? Because they are underground, they will not perform any photosynthesis. So we have aerial shoot system that will perform photosynthesis, that will be producing food, and they will store underground, not in the root, and they are stored inside the underground stem. Okay, so this is how you can see the underground rhizome, and they will be having these buds along with the nodes and internodes, and even we can see the scaly leaves. So this is regarding the rhizome. So rhizome is a horizontally or parallelly growing structure inside the soil. It is nothing but a modified stem which is reaching the soil, and later it will store the food material. It will become fleshy. Okay, so mainly you can distinguish the stem from a root, underground stem from underground root, the presence of the scaly leaves, nodes, internodes, axillary buds, and even the terminal buds are present. Then how these structures are again producing the new offsprings, means we are talking with the vegetative propagation here. How they are mainly seen here. So if you see here, each axillary bud, they have the ability to produce a shoot, a new shoot. Buds are nothing but compressed shoots, are nothing but the buds here. So here the buds will be producing the new plant, and at the lower region of this plant you can see the formation of the root system, adventitious root. Why we are calling it as adventitious root? Why? Because it is produced on the stem, and hence we are calling them as adventitious root system. Okay, so this is a plant that will arise from the rhizome, and on the lower side it will produce many adventitious roots. Okay, so when this condition is seen, this rhizome is seen in the case of ginger. So this is the diagram, the picture which I have given is about the ginger. We have in banana, turmeric and ferns. Okay, mainly the fern plants even show this rhizome. So in the case of banana, we have another modification, children, that we'll be discussing later, that is called sucker. Sucker is nothing but a stem which is growing underground and it will reach the soil. Later it will produce a plant. Okay, so that is called as sucker. Mainly that is a subaerial modification that we will be learning later. So here mainly this banana will be having two types of modification. One, we can see two types of stem modification. That is the most important thing. In banana we have two stem modification. One is underground stem modification, the formation of rhizome, and even we have another. So this is helping in the vegetative propagation, and the same way even they have the production of suckers there. That structure is even helping in the vegetative propagation. So that will, if a sucker is removed from a banana plant, it can be giving rise to a new plant. Okay, so for vegetative propagation in banana we have two structures. One is rhizome for storage and vegetative propagation, and sucker is for vegetative propagation mainly. Okay, so this is a major difference you have to remember. And next we have the fern plant. Pteridophytes even have the rhizome. So example here it is included. So rhizomes are again divided into two types. One are said to be the rootstocks and other are said to be the stragglers or straggling. And here these rootstocks here, mainly how do you distinguish these rhizomes? Rootstocks are generally obliquely growing structure and they will be produced inside the soil, and slowly they will be reaching at the upper surface of the soil, growing in an oblique fashion, and such type of rhizomes are said to be the rootstocks. An example, we have Dryopteris, plant Dryopteris. You can see these rootstocks. Okay. This is a fern plant, and next we have straggling. Stragglings are again of two types. It is racemose or cymose. Then what are straggling here? Stragglings are generally horizontally growing structure. So rhizome means, I have told you that it is a horizontally growing structure, but some are obliquely growing structures which are said to be the rootstocks. Rhizomes which are obliquely growing and reach the surface of the soil, they are said to be the rootstocks, and these are seen in the Dryopteris, which is a fern plant. And in straggling, generally these plants are horizontally growing, means normal rhizome characteristic feature, but these are of two types again, based upon whether they branch or will not. Okay, so if the plant it is continuously growing without any branching, we call the straggling as the racemose stragglers. And here the racemose condition is the one why we have the continuous growth, horizontal growth of these plants. In racemose branching, what will happen? There is a continuous growth of the rhizome. So here the terminal bud is active. It will not undergo dormant, or it will not show any dormancy. It will be continuously growing. So what will happen, children? The terminal bud, when it is active, the lateral buds are generally suppressed and it will show a single layer of a rhizome like this. So if you see here the growth of the plant, so there is one rhizome, later again another, so produce roots, it will again produce roots. So in this fashion, so here there will be the terminal bud. The terminal bud is active and it will show the continuous growth of a horizontal rhizome, and this will come under the racemose type. In cymose type, what will happen? We can see the branching, means we can see the activity of terminal bud along with the axillary bud. So axillary buds and terminal buds both are active, and hence you can see the branching here. So just imagine the condition of Gingiber officinalis, the ginger. The scientific name of ginger is Gingiber officinalis. So in Gingiber officinalis, if you see the growth of the rhizome, so you can see different branches that are formed. So terminal it is growing, as well as it is showing the lateral bud formation. So lateral buds, they will give rise to new offsprings and they will be spreading all over. Okay, so this will give a uniform growth all over, and that is known as the cymose cymose growth. Simply understand that if you see the branching condition, we call it as cymose type, and if you have a single horizontal growth of a rhizome, we simply call it as a racemose type. So this racemose type, it is seen in Saccharum officinarum, that is sugarcane. So if you take a sugarcane stem and you place it in the soil, it will be growing in a horizontal manner. So at each node you can see the formation of the roots, adventitious roots are formed. So this is the best example to understand the racemose condition. So we will be having a horizontal stem that is growing, and it will be giving rise to shoots on the aerial side, and from below you can see the formation of adventitious root, but it will not form any branches. And in the case of cymose, the best example to understand is the ginger. In the ginger, if you see, you can see the growth of the lateral growth of the ginger, and even you can see the terminal growth. So overall, if you see the structure of ginger, we have some uniformity in both terminal axis. We can see the activity of axillary bud as well as the terminal bud. So this is the one example I have given under cymose. So the cymose condition, it is seen in both gingiber and also curcuma. We have another example, that is canna. So what are the examples here, children? For racemose condition, we have sugarcane, that is Saccharum officinarum, and we have the lotus. And for cymose, we have Gingiber officinalis, that is ginger, Curcuma longa, that is turmeric, and Canna indica. Okay, so these are some examples. So here I have given examples, but the conditions of these examples are again given here. So if you see the examples and conditions, first I have told you about ginger. So ginger will have rhizome, but which type of rhizome specifically? If you see the type of rhizome that we have in ginger is the cymose type of rhizome. It's a straggling and it is cymose type of rhizome. In banana, we have discussed with some other important thing, that is regarding the reproduction. So reproduction here, it is vegetative reproduction. It can occur through two methods. One is through rhizome and other is through the suckers. And next we have discussed with the turmeric. In turmeric, we have which condition, children? In turmeric, we have the cymose condition. So ginger and turmeric both are cymose condition. And for ferns, the Bryopteris, we have the root stalks. Root stalks means, I have told you, they will be obliquely growing. So look at the stem. So if you see here, there is an underground stem and it will grow like this, which will reach the soil, and you have the formation of roots like this. Okay, so this is the layer of soil, and we have the formation. This is the rhizome, which is growing obliquely, which will reach the soil, and they will form roots from the underground, and later they will form the shoot system. Okay, so this is how it will be differing from the stragglings. Stragglings means they mainly grow horizontally. Root stalks means they will be growing obliquely. Okay, this is the major difference. So in ferns, we have the rhizomes, which are the root stalks, and in Saccharum lotus we have racemose. In cymose, in ginger and curcuma and canna indica, we have the cymose condition. Okay, so this is regarding the rhizome. And next, coming to the tuber. Tuber is again the storage underground stem, and this is mainly seen in your potato, and also the helianthus. Helianthus, it belongs to Asteraceae family. Okay, so both these plants, mainly they will show the formation of tuber. What is a tuber again? So if you see the structure of the tuber, it is slightly different from that of the rhizome. So tubers are generally fleshy and they will be a spherical structure. They are spherical structure. If you imagine the structure of the potato, you can see the structure which is present like this, and on potato you can see many small eyes which are present, and these eyes represent the scale leaves, same like that of the rhizome. Even you can see the presence of scale leaves here. So it is leaving a scar. The scale leaves will be wilted, and later it will leave a scar on this potato, and these are the nodes. So at every node, these lines indicate the nodes, and attached with these nodes we have the scar, which is remnant of a scaly leaf, and this will give an appearance of an eye. So these structures which are present on the potato are generally known as eyes of the potato. Okay, so these eyes represent a node. Along with the node we have a scar, that is mainly a remnant of a scaly leaf. Okay, so this is about the eyes. So here even we have the nodes and internodes that are mainly seen here, and these nodes will produce buds, and these buds will give rise to new plants, same like that of the gingiva officinalis or other plants which we have discussed. Here even the same thing will happen. So each eye, if you take a piece of potato from the eye and you place it inside the soil, it will sprout and give rise to a new offspring. Okay, so this is called as the tuber. So mainly how the tuber is differentiated, or you can say how the tuber is distinguished from rhizome. Here in the case of tuber, not the complete stem, the underground stem will be present. The stems will be formed and they reach the soil, they penetrate the soil, and later after penetration, the tip of the stem, not the complete stem. In this case we have the complete stem modification, but in the case of tuber, this is very very important children, only the tip of the stems are storing the food material and they are converted into tubers. Okay, so that is a major important distinguishing feature of the tuber from other corm or rhizome. Mainly it is showing the similarity with corm and rhizome. If you see the structure, they are mainly similar. The bulb is again different, but if you see the tuber it is mostly similar with the corm and rhizome. But what is a basic difference you have to understand is that not the complete stem, the tip of the stem will store food material and it will become fleshy, and that is known as the tuber. If you see the structure of the tuber, it is almost spherical while storing food material, and they will have some scars on the potato. If you observe the potato, we have some scars which are present on the potato, and these are known as eyes. What does eyes represent? Eyes will be having the nodal region, so these are nodes. Along with we have some thick brown scales, and these are nothing but the remnant of the scaly leaves. Okay, we have the scaly leaves which will leave a scar. After they drop off, they will be leaving a scar and they will form an eye-like structure. So if you separate a single eye from a potato and you place inside the soil, if you take a peel of the potato along with the eye and if you place inside the soil, you can see the formation of a new shoot. What it will indicate? It will indicate that each peel of the potato will be containing the node where you can see the presence of bud. The bud will give rise to the new shoot, and from lower side you can see the formation of the adventitious root. Whatever roots that are formed here, we will call it as adventitious roots. Why? Because it is a stem modification. So any structure, any root that is present on the stems, we call them as adventitious roots. So here in potato even we have the eyes that are present, and each eye represent a node, and each node will have a scar, or you can say a mark which is left by a leaf, that is the scaly leaf, and these eyes will be mainly associated with the vegetative propagation. So here, what is the major difference? I have told you the terminal part of the underground stem will store food material. Examples here are potato is also known as Solanum tuberosum, and it is second one is the Helianthus. Third, coming to the corm. So here, what is the major difference between rhizome, tuber and corm? Tuber is completely different. Why? Because it is not a complete modification of stem, only part of the stem at the tip is modified. But rhizome and corm are the complete modifications of the stem, but only difference between rhizome and corm is rhizome is horizontally growing structure, corm is vertically growing structure. So it's a compressed stem and it is vertically elongated, and almost it will be having a spherical shape or oval shape, but mainly you have similarity with the rhizome here. Corm is little compressed compared to the rhizome, and even it will attain a oval to spherical shape, and it is vertically growing down. So this is horizontally growing and this is vertically growing. Then what you can see on the corm, the same situation which we have observed under tuber and rhizome. Even corm have the nodes, internodes, and also the scaly leaves are present. And how the new offsprings are formed here. So at each nodal region we have buds, the axillary buds, that will give rise to new corms, and these new corms, whenever it is produced, you can see the formation of the adventitious roots below. So many corms are formed, or many offsprings of these corms are produced, and they are still attached to the plant. So Mainly, they are not easily dissociated from the plant, just like the rhizome. They are associated with the mother corm at least for 1 year. Okay, so this is the major difference between corm and the rhizome. And next, here we will be discussing the examples. What examples we have? The first one is colocasia. Colocasia, that is Arbelio, no? So colocasia is one of the best example. And next we have gladiolus, the ornamental plant. And next we have colchicum. It belongs to Liliaceae. It's a Liliaceae member, and this is mainly used in the doubling of the chromosome. So there is a chemical substance that is derived from the colchicum ultimately, and that is known as colchicine. This is mainly helping in the doubling of the chromosomes. We'll be learning with the colchicine later. So mainly in the division, I will be telling in the cell division, I will be discussing with this. And next we have crocus, the saffron plant, and we have Amorphophallus. So here one of the important point with Amorphophallus, the tallest flower which is produced in the plant kingdom is of Amorphophallus. So the tallest flower is mainly produced by which plant, children? Amorphophallus. And the largest flower is Rafflesia. Rafflesia is the largest flower. Tallest flower is Amorphophallus. Okay, so this is one of the important point you have to remember. So what are the examples here? Colocasia, vegetable, gladiolus, it's an ornamental plant. We have colchicum, and it is mainly used in the doubling of the chromosomes. Next we have crocus, that is saffron plant. Next we have the Amorphophallus. In crocus, what we have discussed in the previous lectures, in crocus we have a modification. You can see the contractile roots. So this is second modification we are discussing. A corm can also be seen here. Okay. And lastly we have the Amorphophallus, the tallest flowering plant. Next, coming to the bulb. So the last modification for today is the bulb here. So bulb here is completely different from all the three. So here mainly, what is a bulb? Bulb here, if you see the upper view of a bulb, you say that yes, it is storing the onion, which is storing the food material. It may be an underground stem which will store the food material, but it is completely untrue. So what is true here? The stem that is underground, the stem that is reaching underground, that will never store the food material. So the stem is completely reduced to a disc-like structure, and this disc here you can see, children. So we all know that onion will have a small white color base, and this is nothing but the reduced stem. The stem will never store the food material. Then why we are discussing underground stem here? Why? Because the stem will have the leaves, and in all these three cases the leaves are the dry scaly leaves, but in the case of onion all these leaves are fleshy here. In the stem again, the leaves which are present, the leaves will store the food material. So underground leaves of the stem, they will be becoming fleshy, and hence we have included this under the underground stem. This is very, very important. The actual stem that will be reduced to a disc-like structure, and here it will produce the adventitious roots below, and above you can see many fleshy leaves which are overlapped one above the other, and they will store the food material. So actually what is a bulb? Actually the bulb is a stem which is reduced to a disc-like structure, above which we have many fleshy leaves. Here the leaves are not scaly leaves, here we have the fleshy leaves, and all these fleshy leaves will form a bulb-like structure. Okay. And the examples here we have, children, and above you can see the formation of the plant. For each bulb you have one plant that is formed. So leaves are present here. Then where are the nodes and internodes? If you see here, this is reduced stem. It will be having some nodes and internodes. So wherever there is a node, you can see the formation of bud, and from that bud you can see the formation of a new bulb. Okay, it's called bulbels or bulblets, you can call it as. So these bulblets or bulbels are mainly produced from the nodes that are present on the reduced stem. This reduced stem will contain the nodes will contain the buds, and these buds, the axillary buds, mainly they will produce the new bulbs or new onions. Okay, how these new onions are produced? From the axillary buds of the reduced stem. Okay, So these leaves will not give rise to new plants, children. The reduced stem part, if you see onion plant, when you pick onion from the ground, you can see the onions that are attached to the lower part of another mother onion. So why this base, why they will be attached? Why? Because they are produced from the base itself. Why? Because the reduced stem is present below, and that will have, or that will carry the node, and that node will have a bud. From that bud you can see the formation of new bulbets. Okay, so bulbets are mainly formed from the lower region, and above what you will have the leaves which are fleshy, which will become fleshy, succulent, and that will be mainly stored in the food material. So stem will not actually store the food material here. The leaves which are present on the stem, which are reduced, which are condensed, and they will store food material, they will become fleshy in the case of the bulb. Okay, so this is regarding your bulb, and examples here I have given onion, lily, garlic. In this again we have one important point to discuss here. We all know that onion or garlic, they mainly have a sheath which is present around them, right? And such type of sheath, it is known as tunica. What is the sheath that is present, children? The layer which we will open generally in using for cooking purpose. What you will do, you will take an onion and you will remove a sheath or peel, right? And that peel is known as tunica. So all these bulbs are covered by mainly all the bulbs which are coming under this category are mainly covered by the tunica, which is nothing but a sheath or a peel. Okay, in the second we have slight variation. So bulbs are again of three types. What are the three types? First is simple tunicated bulb. Simple bulb means it will be having, just simply understand the condition of onion. Onion will have only one bulb, and around the bulb we have one sheath. That is called as simple tunicated. Why? Because it has a sheath and it is only one. We call it as simple tunicated. And the second condition is the compound tunicated bulb. What is compound tunicated bulb? A single bulb will not be present. Many bulblets are present, and all these bulblets are covered by a tunica. Along with that, all these bulblets are in turn covered by another sheath. Where you can see this condition, children, in garlic. If you see the garlic, if you press open the garlic, if you crush the garlic, you can see a sheath around the garlic completely. But when you open, when you crush it, you can see many bulblets that are formed in the garlic. And that condition is called compound tunicated bulb. Means the bulb is converted into bulblets. Many small bulblets are formed, and each bulblet will have tunica, and all round this bulblets again we have another sheath. Okay, such type of bulb is known as compound tunicated bulb. And lastly we have naked bulb. So naked bulb means there doesn't have any sheath. Bulb is formed but the sheath is absent. Such type of bulb is called naked bulb, where you can see this condition in lily. Okay, so all these three examples are coming under each category. Onion will come under simple tunicated, garlic will come under compound tunicated, and lily will come under the naked bulb. Okay, so these are the different type of underground stems that we have discussed today. And in the next lecture, mainly I will be discussing with the remaining functions of the stem that is mainly useful for vegetative propagation, stem that is used in defense, stem that is used for climbing. So different functions of the stem that we'll be discussing. So the most important part of the stem is the storage, marination, and vegetative propagation. So all these four are very, very important for your NEET children. So you have to remember each and every point that I have discussed today along with the examples. And in this mainly you have to mainly match, or you can say mainly compare with each and every structure. Whatever differences I have told you, you have to note it down. You prepare a notes out of it and later you can study. Once you are thorough with the structure, then you will be learning with the examples. Okay, in that way it will be very easy for you. And even whenever you are learning with some examples, you have to imagine. So if you are learning with the rhizome, you have to imagine the gingiva or the ginger. When you are learning with the comb, you have to remember the structure of the arbi, that is called acacia. Or when you are learning with the bulb, you have to take in mind the onion, garlic. So in that way, if you are studying, that will be very easy for you to learn with the examples. Okay, never make codes in this chapter, children. This is very difficult if you are making the codes in this chapter. Why? Because you will be landing in confusion. We have numerous examples here. So mainly for this chapter, how you will remember the examples, that I will tell you, mainly by looking at the pictures. So mainly you have to follow the pictures, and along with the pictures you have to learn the example. This is the only method that can solve your problem. Okay. For morphology, we have many examples. So wherever you are learning examples, you have to bring in the picture in your mind. Then only you can recall the examples what you have learned. Okay. So here what we have learned today, children, we have learned with the storage stem, that is underground storage stem. But you have to remember, this underground storage stem is also having two other functions, that is marination and the other is the vegetative propagation. And here mainly main activity is the storage. And here we have four categories: the rhizome, the tuber, the culm and the bulb. Rhizome is horizontally growing, tuber is a tip of the stem that is storing food material, the culm is vertically growing, and the bulb is a reduced disc-like structure. There we have the leafy bases, or you can say the leaf bases are mainly storing the food material. So in all these four conditions, mainly what is the major important similarity you can see for all the structures which we have discussed today? They will have the nodes, internodes, the buds are seen, the axillary buds, the terminal buds, even you can see the leaves. The leaves are modified as the scaly leaves, but in the case of onion we have the fleshy leaves. Okay, so in the next lecture we'll be starting with another modification of the stem. Thank you.